What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here bringing you another video. Today I'm bringing you a video on Kamen Rider Build episode 37. This episode is called The Ultimate Phase, and as you may have guessed based on previous episodes, this episode leads to the final form of Kamen Rider Evil. This form is introduced at the very end, but will obviously become a important form for probably either the rest of the show or for a good portion of the rest of the show. So that's very cool to see. We also get to see in this episode a new form for Ryoga, which is a different form of his standard Cross Z Dragon mode. And that was very cool to see. And in the preview of this episode, of the next episode, we actually get to see Mad Rogue, which originally I was suspecting for a while that it would be Gentaku, just because Mad Rogue, you would think that it would just be a power-up. Though earlier this week I did find information which does seem to hint that it actually might be Utsumi, which makes a lot of sense. That I could see. He's the only other character that I could see getting that form, if anyone, just because he's had it before. He's had the form of Rogue before, and just in general, like, it makes the most sense that he would be the only other person to have it. Now, does that mean that Gentaku couldn't get it at some point? You never know. He may actually get it at some point if it makes sense to, but we'll have to wait and see for sure. I don't want to assume anything until we really know for certain. But anyway, this episode begins with us seeing a continuation of the previous episode where Sento was taken over by Evolto, and he tries to use the evil trigger, which he hopes to gain his true power by unleashing it and having Sento be the body that he uses. Well, the thing is that with Sento, he still can't use the evil trigger, and so what ends up happening is that he ends up, he's in this Kamen Rider Evil Rabbit form, and what happens is that Ryoga tries to transform, and when he does this, it doesn't work. It's a complete fail, and it's mainly because he has no more of Evil's DNA anymore. And so because of this, he can't transform at this moment. And in the meantime, Grease still tries to fight, but it doesn't work out very well. And what does end up happening is that eventually, Evil knows that the Pandora's box is at the cafe, and so he plans to head there and get the Pandora's box. In the meantime, what we actually end up seeing is that Vernage has the ability to actually transport the whole place to a new location. So basically, she takes the building and she transfers it to a location a distance away. Not clear exactly as to where it is in relation to where it originally was, but it's clear that the place is taken up because later on we end up seeing Kamen Rider Evil go over to the location, and you could see that like the whole place has been removed from where it was. Like, there's just this whole entire like underground kind of area that just is missing. And so what happens is that Kamen Rider Evil has no idea where the Pandora's box is, and so at that point what ends up happening is that we end up seeing Ryoga and Kazumine, and they decide to go to Gentaku. In the meantime, what does end up happening is that Evil does come to Namba, talking about how he still is looking to gain the Pandora's box, and he'll still stay with the people because he can't gain his true power right now, but he'll work alongside them. And yet at the same time, Namba is becoming less and less trusting of Evil, but he still, he still wants to work with him because he knows that he has power and he doesn't want to get on his bad side, clearly. But at the same time, Namba has his own power, and he is also a very corrupt man, so that's another factor to obviously take into consideration. So what does end up happening, though, is that evil will stay around. He'll try to figure out a way to get his powers, and he's amused by people. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Again, he's an extraterrestrial that's amused by people, so he has no problem staying around. He's not just gonna destroy people because he can, because he actually he finds them interesting enough. And in the meantime, as I said before, what do you call it? Gentaku, Ryoga, and Kazumi are in the same place. Ryoga asked Gentaku for help, but Gentaku's like, you would want me to fight alongside you, even though I killed your woman. In other words, remember, he had his girlfriend who died very, very early in the show because Gentaku agreed to let her become a hard smash and get destroyed. And he was fine with it. He had no sympathy for her at all. And yet the thing is that he also struggles with the fact that his father wants him to rebuild, or build the foundation for the country to be fixed and restored to its prior strength. And the thing is that Gintaku's just not really confident in himself anymore, and with his father gone, he has no drive to actually transform anymore. But at the same time, Ryoga really insists upon the fact that Sento fought for love and peace, and he should fight for it as well, and really try to help out. And eventually they're contacted by Evil using Sento's phone, where he says, I can basically wipe out your friend's personality anytime. Bring the Pandora's box in the next hour or it will happen. So in other words, meaning that when he relinquishes Sento, what will happen is that his personality could be erased entirely, meaning that he could forget everything that he had. Well, what does end up happening is that from here, eventually Ryoga and Kazumi go to the site of where they're going to meet. We also end up seeing that Ivalto is being babysat but also helped by the Washio Bros. Yes, we haven't seen the Washio Bros in quite some time, but yes, they do end up helping. Initially, they fight against Kazumi, and Ryoga can't really transform, but he's still there. In the meantime, Kazumi does end up fighting against the Washio Bros. And eventually, what does end up happening is that as the fight continues, at one point, Gentaku arrives on the scene and he joins the fight. So he actually joins them in battle, and he agrees to help out and fight for love and peace, like they said. Although it's not just like, I'm just straight up fighting for love and peace. It's like there's an understanding there. There's a relationship forming. There's something more going on. It's not just like, I changed my mind suddenly. And so the thing is that he does fight. They do battle the Washio Bros, and then they begin to fight Kamen Rider Evil, which with him there, what ends up happening is that he ends up using the Kamen Rider Evil Cobra form, and so what ends up happening is that he fights, and then eventually Rogue and Grease get taken out pretty easily, and then what happens is that Ryoga decides to fight, but he can't transform, so he begins to use he actually steals the the dragon bottle that Evil made, and he tries to use its power to beat on Kamen Rider Evil. Again, he doesn't have Evil's strength anymore. He doesn't have the DNA, so when he tries to punch him, because remember, he always used to hold on to the bottles and use the energy that he could unleash from Evil to actually beat on his foes and increase his hazard level. But the thing is that initially when he's doing this, he's just punching and nothing's really happening. It's not really hurting Evil all that much. But as he continues to do it, eventually this blue energy builds up, and then eventually the blue bottle, that's the dragon bottle, transforms into this gold bottle, and when he puts it inside of his the dragon changing device that he has, What happens is that he puts it with his build driver on and everything, and he transforms into Kamen Rider Great Cross Z Dragon. What that is basically it takes the general look of Cross Z Dragon, and then it adds a different color element, and it's just a stronger, more powerful form of the standard Cross Z Dragon form that he's used, which is just his standard mode, but it's more powerful. And then he begins to fight Kamen Rider Evil, which Evil ends up using. I think he primarily starts. Well, actually, I think he started with the Cobra form, but I forget if he actually switches at that point to the Rabbit form. But anyway, he ends up fighting, and then he also ends up using the Magma form. So he uses Cross Z Magma, and then when he does this, he eventually Kazumin and Gentaku join him, and they do a finishing attack, which leads to all three of them doing like basically a rider kick into the evil trigger. Yes, what actually happens is that Kamen Rider Evil ends up taking out the evil trigger, puts it in front of them, and suddenly the trigger changes its form. So it goes from that kind of grayed, kind of worn down look that it had this whole time to this black and white look. And that is the form that it's supposed to take. And what ends up happening is that with them releasing all that energy that they did, suddenly he puts it in the evil driver, and he begins to unleash a massive black tornado. Yes, a black tornado is summoned. And suddenly from the tornado, Ryoga, Gentaku, Kazumin all get launched into the sky because the tornado was lifting them up. At the same time, Sento separates from... Sorry about that. Sento separates from Evolto, and what happens is that in the meantime we end up seeing the true form that Kamen Rider Evil has, which is this Kamen Rider Evil black hole form. Yes, that is his true form. It's a pretty cool design, but yeah, it's basically black and white, the whole design, and it's very, very cool overall. I really like it a lot. Much more simplistic than his standard Cobra form, but a really cool one that definitely has some edge to it and just looks cool. We also end up seeing that Ryoga finally gets to speak to Sento, which Sento wakes up, but suddenly when he says Sento, he's like, who's Sento? I'm Katsuragi. And that clearly implies something, that his memories of being Sento are gone. You know, most likely, as we heard before, the personality could be erased. Well, in this case, either his personality was erased or just his memories in general of being Sento were erased. Now, what that also means probably is that because of the fact that he now has the memories of Katsuragi, he knows things that Sento didn't know anymore. So that's actually so there's a positive and a negative to it. The positive being the fact that he probably knows more information about the rider system, about Kamen Rider Evil, about all these important points that we've been wanting to know for a while. He probably knows all that stuff, but at the same time, he isn't Sento anymore. He's now Katsuragi, and that's an important thing. Now, of course, he's always been Katsuragi, but the thing is that now he has the personality and the memories of Katsuragi rather than what he had before, which is his own personality. Now, does that mean that he won't become Sento again and regain his memories? Hopefully. I personally would like that, but we can't say anything with certainty. As far as things go for the preview, as I said before, Mad Rogue will be introduced next episode. There will be lots of fighting. All these riders will get to fight, and things should be getting very interesting. Soon enough, we should be seeing the Genius form, which is the final form of Sento. And that should be coming relatively soon. Also, eventually, sometime in the near future, we should also be expecting Grease's other form. Yes, Grease will be getting another form. That is something that has been discussed. And also, I saw a recent image today which showed off what it looks like. It looks basically the same as the standard form, but with some other things changed to it. So we'll have to wait and see about that. Overall, I did enjoy this episode. A lot of things happened with new forms, so that's cool. And just in general, the show's getting more and more interesting, and we're getting closer and closer to the end. As far as things go for expectation for the season to end, currently there's an expectation of it possibly being that the season will end at episode 50. Originally, I was thinking about 48. 50, I'm not going to complain about because, that's a good thing. That means that there's more of the show, and I like Kamen Rider Build a lot, so it's like more episodes, yay. At the same time, I can't wait to see what that's gonna mean for the show, because we're almost into the 40s now. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think that we're getting there. I mean, I was expecting the Genius form to have already been introduced by now, but hopefully by episode 40 it will have been introduced. We'll have to wait and see though. I don't know anything for a fact. Again, next episode, Mad Rogue, and maybe the following episode, Genius Form. We'll have to wait and see. So please remember to like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to know your opinions about this episode. Overall, I thought it was a really good episode, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye, guys.